We're recording. Welcome, everybody, to the weekly chat we have called There's No Crying in Business. And we want to hear stories about people who have had issues in their business and learned their lesson and tell us their lesson so maybe we don't have to learn it too many times. I'm Mathia Ford.
I'm Raven Birkin.
Co-host is Raven. Raven, what's going on this week?
You know, it's been a fun week. I recorded a bunch of videos over the weekend that my tribe of direct sellers is going to love. Tomorrow, there will be a video out on the Dice game, which is a hostess. It's a way to book parties at parties, and you're going to love it. Oh, and then next week's video, I had to cock-a-doodle-doo like a rooster, so it was quite embarrassing, and my video editor has been sending me clips, and I'm not positive I'm actually going to show it. But this is all gearing up for our webinar this month on party games. So lots of fun. I know there are a lot of you from my page right now that are interested in hearing our magic buzzword. And I'm not going to tell you right now. I'll tell you in a little bit. But stick around. It's going to be a good show tonight.
That's for sure.
And what's going on with you?
I'm getting ready for spring break next week with my kids. They'll be home, and my school, I teach 2 days a week. So it's going to be lots of fun to not have to do too much. But next week, we're going to work a lot on Amazon, getting a lot of listings up because I went to ASD, and now ASD is a big wholesale show. And now everybody's mailing their stuff to me, and it's showing up this week. So I've got boxes everywhere. So I'll be taking pictures, writing good descriptions, all that stuff over the next week, and possibly even conning my daughter into trying some of the little girls' clothes on. We'll see.
There you go.
So I want to welcome everybody. Looks like a lot of people are joining us, and I want to introduce our guest. We have a wonderful guest this week, just like every week, and I'm going to tell you about Faydra Koenig. She is a Amazon bestselling author, podcaster, lover of Starbucks, and if you follow her at all, you know that's absolutely true. She loves to have them spell her name wrong. I think she likes it better when they spell her name wrong. And the television show Scandal. Faydra is determined that no one facing a crisis should feel alone. She's known in pop culture as America's crisis coach. Faydra interviews high achievers who have faced unimaginable obstacles and come out on top. Her bold approach to crisis management is out of the box and is changing lives. You can find out more about Faydra at doinglifewithfaydra.com, and you can find her books at Faydra on Amazon.com. Catch her podcast, Coming Out of the Fire, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And I'll be putting the link to that in the chat so you can find your way over to her podcast. And I personally know Faydra. I've known her for about 1.5 years, and she's helped me overcome a few obstacles, although I'm sure my obstacles were nowhere near what most of I've heard her podcast guests. You know, it's not a competition, but man, they go through some stuff. So welcome to the show, Faydra.
Hey,
how are you doing?
Hi, I actually know both you girlies. I've traveled with you. I've roomed with you. So
yes,
good times.
Faydra is one of my favorite people in the entire world.
Oh,
and
likewise.
She, it's one of those. It's very interesting because before you and I met in person, Faydra, there was probably a year that we knew of each other because everybody kept saying, "Do you know Faydra? You're gonna love Faydra. I can't believe you don't know Faydra yet." And didn't we end up rooming together before we even met in person?
We did, and it was definitely a love at first sight because I was like, how have we not been friends forever? And we've done a bunch of stuff together, and we've had an absolute blast. I just love both of you for vastly different reasons, but we've had such great fun together.
Yay! When am I going to see you this again? When is the next time that we're going to be meeting?
It's your turn to meet because I've been to you. I'm loving hosting people here in California. We have a lot of fun. Tracy, our mutual friend, came out for a week, and Mathia needs to come out. And so
I do.
Yeah.
You've got a wedding
I've been to Las Vegas together,
coming up.
So.
Oh, yeah, we have to do it.
What?
Mathia, you and I went to Las Vegas together.
Yes, we did.
Oh, I didn't get to go.
But we've got a wedding coming up with your daughter that I know that I'm going to try to make at least if I don't make it before that.
Awesome.
So we want to get to know you a little bit better, Faydra. Could you tell us about your podcast? I know that we've kind of mentioned it in passing here, but for everybody who does not know you yet, could you give us a little synopsis of what it's all about? Because it's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. So the premise of the podcast is people who have been through very high-end, oftentimes perceived as unimaginable crisis, but they've come through the other side and they came out bigger and better than they were before, or at least they figured out how to overcome, right? It didn't just devastate them. They come on the show, they share their story, and what really sets this show apart is the show focuses on that gap of time between when the crisis happened and when they came out the other side. And we get very nitty-gritty about what practical things the guests did to get through the fire. Because what I know after going through my own situation is that it wasn't a special crisis Kool-Aid that you go out and you get when you're in crisis. You actually do some very practical things, but people make up in their head that it's just this special sauce that certain people get access to, and that's why they come through the fire, versus people who actually collapse, you know, go insane or give up hope or commit suicide or whatever those other outcomes could be. So I'm really thrilled. The show has been really well received. I made it all the way to #2 in the business category of new and noteworthy. Very proud of that. And I had really underestimated the enthusiasm that people were going to have to be on the show. I'm a bit overwhelmed by the applicants coming in, which is a great problem to have, let me tell you. But it's been just amazing. So many different types of stories. And what I love the most about it is most of the people on the show are people I know. And they have a tribe who knows them for a certain reason. And they may have never known this story about this leader of their tribe. And I think that they really are giving such value to their followers because they want to know the human side. They want to know how it is you ended up being this leader that they know you to be. And I think it's really fun for your fans to be able to hear these stories that aren't often shared. People routinely say to me, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this, which shows me that people are really comfortable on the show. And I also know that people come off the show feeling this sense of value, that it almost made it that it mattered, that they were able to share what they learned and what they would do different or what they know. And it feels really good to have gone through something that bad and actually be able to help somebody because of it.
It certainly does put it all in perspective. You know, I mean, as far as when I listen to other people's stories, it makes me feel like Mathia was saying earlier, that it's like whatever I'm going through is nothing compared to what others can push through, and it's really remarkable, and it's a great way to get to know people on a real human level, and I love it.
It isn't a contest, like Mathia, you know, we were saying it's not a contest, but here's the thing. The reason I do the show is when I was going through my crisis, I didn't know anybody who had ever been through anything like that. And most of the people in my circle were just petrified for me and with me. And because of that, I didn't see any way out. And I didn't get any tools to grow through it. I was kind of stuck. And that was very, very scary. And I do this show so people don't feel alone. And what I say is that you might not be going through this specific crisis, but what you'll see if you subscribe and listen to the show routinely, what you'll see is that the human emotion's the same. And what I've learned now is I don't necessarily need for someone to have gone through what I went through for me to feel like someone can hear me or someone can show me that it's going to be okay. And that alone has just been such a reward for people to be able to see themselves, maybe not in that same spot, You know, we've had a guest on whose family member was murdered. Well, maybe that didn't happen to you, but the spin out, how she reacted to it, where it took her, the dark place it took her, maybe that is something you can resonate with and hear what she did to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, oh, okay, well, if your family member gets murdered, then you have to do X, Y, and Z to get over it. No, what we do to get over things is usually universal. The story might be unique, but the coming through the fire is universal. And that's what I love, is kind of dispelling the myths and peeling back the curtain and showing people that it's not magic. It's not smoke and mirrors. And it's not, like I said, crisis Kool-Aid. It's really practical things that you can do.
I like that, crisis Kool-Aid.
Yep.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Faydra, we listen to your story. Every week we listen to a different person's story, crisis, issue that they had that made them, quote unquote, want to cry. And so we'd like to hear your story and hear what you learned from that story.
So as it relates to business, as it relates to...
Yeah.
Business. Mm-hmm.
There's no crying in business.
Right, exactly. So my original brand before I got hit upside the head with my crisis was America's Divorce Coach. I was really well known, very well received, helping people in that niche. What was not working in that niche, even before my crisis hit, I was getting resistance from colleagues, especially. I would want to joint venture with somebody. I'd want to come alongside them. And typically what I would hear is maybe they didn't want to promote divorce. They didn't want to look like they were promoting it, which was never what I was even doing, but that was lost in translation. Or they weren't dealing in the world of divorce, so they didn't see how it could fit with their people. So there was almost like a shame, like, well, I don't want to talk about divorce, especially if it was a Christian-based company, or, well, I don't want to be about drama, or I don't want to be promoting that people get a divorce. So that was already kind of a friction point for me, but I was still able to write 6 books and definitely coach and get, play. So I had some game, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. Then when I went through my own personal crisis, I really shrunk and went within because I didn't know how to share with people what was going on in my life. And I want to be transparent. I want people to see me as a person of integrity. And I didn't know how to say, well, yeah, I'd love to partner with you about business, but I didn't know what I was obligated to say about what was going on in my private life. So what the best situation for me, once I started coming through the fire and getting the support that I needed, I realized that I needed to widen my niche. And when I widened my niche from just divorce as a crisis, but to all forms of crisis, it was the best use of my talent because my background is in the field of social work, family court services, and mental health. So I'd worked for 22 years with thousands of people solving crises for a living. And when I expanded out of there, it created a lot of opportunity. Number one, for me to be transparent about my own situation. The other thing was for me to be able to come alongside coaches, because now we weren't just talking about divorce. We were talking about every white elephant that was in every single room. And coaches were loving it because I had skills in psychology that could help their business clients who were stuck in roadblocks because of their mindset. So for me, it was a great transition and a great ability for me to stop crying in my business, because there is no crying, and actually use my situation as a platform, and actually gave me more credibility and made my skill set sharper.
Now, do you want to tell us just a little bit about your situation so that those that are listening right now are kind of filled in and they get that blank filled in?
Yeah, sure. No problem. So you can see the full, I have a video on my website at doinglifewithfaydra.com, and it really kind of spells everything out. But essentially the nutshell version is, in 2008, I was dating someone. We later got married, and it was during the time of the housing market crash. It was also during the time of the elections here in California, and the attorney general was running for governor. He wanted to look really tough on white collar crime. So one of the things he did was he indicted over 100 people in the state of California for various crimes. And typically when something like that happens, you negotiate, you try to prove that you did or you didn't do something wrong, whatever you do. In our case, Jim was trying to prove that he didn't do something wrong. And they are very, very powerful. And when he wouldn't take a deal, they got really, really tough. And they put him in jail for 2.5 years trying to force him to take a deal. When he wouldn't, he went to trial. It was a very difficult trial. He was stripped away of everything, his house, his resources, his money, and he was left with a public defender to fight this very, very complicated machine of the state. And he ended up losing, and he was sent to prison for 43 years, which is essentially the rest of his life. Now, along that way, I went from dating him to marrying him, and when everything went south, which I didn't think was going to happen, I became collateral damage, and I was a pariah in the community. I was basically a widow without the death. He's been gone for 3.5 years now, and I felt very isolated, very alone. And I had this sense of shame on me. People say that, shame on you, and I never really understood that before. Basically, if I had just divorced him and walked away, I probably could have saved my reputation. And there was a lot of pressure to do that, and I was very confused for about 1.5 years. And then I realized I didn't really want to do that. I know that's what people wanted me to do, but I didn't necessarily want to do that. So I had to figure out how to be who I was, live in integrity with who I wanted to be, and be willing to say I love my husband, even though society thinks I shouldn't. And so we've been through this fire, and I've, as I said, reinvented myself. We filed our appeal. That's happening this year. We're very, very positive about it, and I really hope that he will be home and that will be the end of this chapter of our life. If it's not, my skill sets are going to get even better, and I'm going to be even more able to manage this life that I'm living in. So that is a very complicated story whittled down.
And, I feel like I am a better person for knowing you. And I say that because I talk with you. I watch what you post on Facebook and what you write. And you are constantly making me examine my own judgments, the ones that I didn't know I had. And I absolutely love you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Even something as simple as, I know at one time you made a comment about how you refused to watch the show Orange is the New Black because it just, it humorized something that was very, very real for you. And I will admit, I do watch the show, but
you go.
I look at it differently, and I look at a lot of things differently. And I want to thank you for that, because it's been an incredible journey knowing you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That is one thing that's very interesting about my bold approach to crisis management, is because I come at it from a different perspective. And I'm usually the one, when people are putting the hate on a person or a situation, that says, excuse me, have you thought about it from this perspective and tried to humanize the person or the situation? And I talk about the 1 degree. I am the 1 degree. There are people that are 1 degree away from a scandal or a criminal or a whatever, and the fallout that they have to live with. When we think about like the Sandy Hook shootings, or we think about Bernie Madoff, he had a wife. The Sandy Hook shooter had parents, and the shame that gets put on these people is unbearable, because Jim's in a prison where he's isolated and he's shielded somewhat. I mean, trust me, his life sucks tremendously, but I'm out here trying to make a living, pay my bills, and live. And there are a faction of people who would just as soon, none of that, nothing good ever happened. And I have really gotten comfortable with living in the suck. And I understand that you can. And I used to think, well, why me? Well, why not me? I haven't had a cancer. I haven't had some of the god-awful things that my guests have had on the podcast. And it humbles me, and it helps me know that I was a judgy McJudgy. Even though I worked with, people for 22 years, I thought I was loving. I thought that I was selfless. I was in the prison all the time visiting clients, right? But when you go there as a prison wife, it's a radically different experience. And I've learned how to stop my judgment. I'm probably not 100% there, but it is definitely been a way for this upper middle class Caucasian American woman to have a totally different perspective of what shame looks like and what prejudices that we really do have.
Lethea, are you still here with us?
I am. I'm here. I'm listening.
You kind of froze up on me.
Oh, sorry.
Well, yes.
I was just going to say, when you said the shame on him or shame on you or whatever type thing, the other day, and I don't want this to be a political discussion, obviously, but my mother-in-law said to me, doesn't Donald Trump embarrass you? Doesn't he just embarrass you? And I said, no, he's nothing to me. You know, he's not the president. And for me, it's how he feels inside. I don't need to worry about that on top of everything else. So you just reminded me of that. I'm like, you do have to think that people make their choices. They go through these paths. And it just reminds me that everybody has a story. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what that person has gone through or what they have experienced. You don't know if they've been adopted. And you're saying adoption is not a good story, but maybe their parent got killed when they were young. And you're saying something about, or murderers or something, and it's offensive to them or it's upsetting to them, but they're not going to come out and say to you, this is a problem. So I think that's why it's good that you're there for people to be able to work through that, because until I thought through it that way, I didn't think about what is everyone's story that
I'll tell you a really fun. Right. I'll tell you a really fun story real quick that happened on social media. A girl that I grew up with, so I've known her most of my life, posted something really vulgar about, and I'll make it up in my head, anyone in prison. I just heard that people in prison get syrup for their waffles. I think that's ridiculous. They should just get bread and water. And I posted something in her thread that said, hey, you know, I disagree. And just remember, you never know who's, you know, seeing what you're posting. Oh, I'm unapologetic, you know, blah, blah, blah. Here's my point. So in Faydra fashion, I did a video where I just said, hey, when you guys post this stuff, just remember that 1 degree, right? When you see the druggies in the prisons that get out and you say, oh, they're just cycling back in and all that. There was a mother who did the best that she could to keep that from happening. Sometimes there was a mom who didn't care, but there is the mom who did. And I just did this video. And what was so cool is she had forgotten my story. When she put the dots together, she was so humbled and so embarrassed. And what she did is she came to me, she said, may I please post on your wall? And she posted this retraction and said, I have seen things through a totally different set of eyes, and I'm so grateful, and please know I am forever changed. And we used it as this teaching tool to say, look, anybody gets to change their mind at any time. A KKK member can stop it, can walk across the line and say, I have been completely wrong. And so I think that I represent this, what normal's supposed to look like, and people have this vision of what a prison wife looks like or whatever, and I shake that up a little bit. And it's not something I would have volunteered for. I don't want to be tribute, as they say, but I'm here and I'm willing. And the alternative was hiding and feeling suicidal, and I don't want that. I don't want to think that that's my only choice. So by being willing to talk about it, it gives me purpose. So I appreciate what you said, that, you know, it impacted you in that certain way.
Well, and I was in the Army, and I went into the military prisons and worked with the prisoners. And so I know how it feels to kind of be behind those walls and do that, and to have some empathy for that, because the food is difficult to make when you have diabetes or cholesterol issues or whatever. And, but I had never talked to someone who has that experience of having their family member put away. Although I do have it's not a family member, but related to my nephew that has been in prison and gets in and out and goes back and forth. And it's one of those things where you see the trauma of that child because it's his dad. And he wants so bad for his dad when he gets out of prison to be the dad that everybody else got. But that's not who that person is. And you're right about that 1 degree, because it has been very difficult. And I'm thankful that my husband has been able to be there for him as his surrogate kind of father to say, you need to do this, or, when you're 15, you need to change your socks and you need to take a shower every day. And that's just because
you need to be told that.
Boys smell when they're that age. So anyway, we're getting close to the end, but I wanted to see if anybody had any questions in the audience for Faydra. I know we've kind of gone through her story. And
we've touched.
You guys have questions or
the iceberg here?
Yeah, just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, we have one person calling in, so I'm going to let them come in and maybe they can talk. Can you hear us, Portia? No. Okay. Anybody else want to join us or?
Oh, be brave.
Yeah, Pastor, there's nothing you can say we can't handle.
But I think it's wonderful, the lesson to learn to look deeper than that first impression, deeper than that when you're judging. Yeah, how do you... And you're right, because sometimes you judge and you don't even think you're judging.
Because here's the deal.
You caught me.
I don't want to become the apologetic person for prison life, because here's the truth. There's the spectrum. I believe that my husband's innocent and he's in a really crappy place. But I also know there's a lot of really crappy people in there. I visit with them. I see that. Well, to be honest, they aren't getting visitors. I mean, the people who are the dregs, the people I hang out with, I hear stories not unlike ours. Our system is designed to force you to take a deal. And it's super scary. There are people in there who, shouldn't be there, and they didn't have the money to not be there or what have you. But my point is that I'm not looking for this, let's all become sympathetic, but know that within every microcosm, micro society, there's a spectrum. And so we judge, and yet some people deserve that judgment, I guess you could say, and then others are refreshingly not what you thought.
I see. We got Kelly McCarthy calling in. Hi. Is she going to be able to get on?
I'm too big. I'm too big. Well, I just wanted to pop in and say hi to Faydra and thank her for sharing her story again, because there are a lot of people, as a business coach, I talk with folks who often express why they can't just go for it with their business, why they can't share the message they have to share or provide the service they have to provide, because they feel like there's something wrong with them. Like, you don't know what's going on in my life. And because of that, they feel like they have to hold back. And what a shame it would be, Faydra, if you had felt like until everything is sorted out, I should probably just go hide. Oh my God. It would be awful to think of what we would all be missing from our lives. Thank you for being so brave and awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, the book I'm writing right now is called, I have a working title. So it's called Everybody's Hiding Something, The Fear of Being Found Out. No, the fear of being found out, everybody's hiding something. Because that's what I find out over and over and over again, is people have this thing, and if they would just shine the light on the thing, they could solve it, they could acknowledge it, or they can move through it.
And that's an excellent point.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Have fun.
you.
And for all my people out there who are wondering what the special buzzword is tonight, it is crisis.
Woo!
So you know where to put that.
Oh,
We have a special prize for one of my people that are here tonight that types that word into the group, and yay!
That's awesome.
And Faydra, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We need more Faydras out there. We absolutely do.
Yay, yay. Well, I hope to empower more of us to rise to the occasion.
Well, and I know you say, you do the crisis thing, but really what you did for me was to help me to see what some of my blockages were that weren't just the obvious, like what Kelly said. Why am I just not finishing? Why can I not do that? What is it that's getting to me? And talking through it and saying, when you do this, what does it do? Mm-hmm. I even realized how much I'm a dietitian and I love food and I'm obsessed with food. And now I go on this whole 30 diet and I realize how much I use food to make myself feel better. Because I'm sitting there driving down and I'm like, oh, I did good today. I'm going to get me some Dairy Queen. And then I'm like, oh, no, Dairy Queen. Wait a minute. Being good today does not equate to good food. So anyway, I just want to say, that's what you do for people is you help them through crisis. And I know you talk a lot about that. It's also just helping people to realize those blocks that they have that is keeping them from it without their being aware of it.
Right. That's the thing that when I'm not talking about crisis management, right? What I tell people is that I help people who have spent a lot of money in very targeted ways with very specific coaches, and they didn't get the results that they expected. I help them understand why, so that they can then implement everything that they learned, because everything they learned from those coaches, all the money that they spent, all that knowledge is still there. It's the stuff that they didn't know, their mindset that was holding them back. And once I help them unpack that, all that stuff that they learned from all those coaches, it just implements really quickly. And that was what happened for you.
Yes, it did.
So hit me up if you're stuck, people.
All right. Well, we're getting to be that time of the night where we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. We will have a copy of this up on YouTube, and we'll all be sharing it with all of our followings here tomorrow.
I'll get you to YouTube tonight.
Oh, it'll be on YouTube tonight. Yay. So thank you all for being here.
And it'll be in subscribe. Join us for next week.
Yes, join us next week. We have a mom business owner next week, and she's going to be telling us about that. So it'll be fun.
She helps people,
Yes.
I'll be listening.
Thanks, guys.
Yay. Thanks.
All right, we appreciate it. Bye-bye.